All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Errol Spence Jr. says he's going to be back in July, hopefully. And there's two things that I want to talk about related to that. One is the hopefully is a big time hopefully because of what is going on throughout the world with an issue that might cause a lot of fights to be canceled. And second thing I want to talk about, listening to the tone of people that are talking about Errol Spence Jr.'s return. Errol Spence Jr.'s return can be very, very dangerous for the next fighter that he fights. Let's talk about those three things in this video. All right, welcome back. Errol Spence Jr., the truth, the WBC and the IBF welterweight world champion, one of the fastest rising boxing stars in all of boxing, and a guy that we're really looking forward to have major fights down the road with guys like Manny Pacquiao and Terrence Crawford. There's even word out there about him potentially fighting Canelo Alvarez at a future date. So, the world is really, really bright for Errol Spence Jr. and it's exciting for boxing to have a guy like that whose fights have a lot of anticipation behind them, ahead of them, and expectations for him as far as what he's going to do in the future. Now, as we know, though, there was a major incident that took place after his victory over Sean Porter in the WBC and the IBF unification fight. And that is when Errol Spence Jr. flipped his car over multiple times. It looked like it was a very, very grave situation. When it first happened, people were wondering whether or not he was going to survive. And if he does survive, there was almost no talk of him coming back to boxing. Pretty much people were like, oh, with something like that, what a shame, what a tragedy. That somebody that is that skilled and that promising had his career taken away. But with the same amount of pretty much amazement and in a negative amazement that happened, right? The fact that he had according to his team, according to the medical doctor, according to the WBC, and everything that anybody's actually heard from people that are connected to him, he got out of there pretty much unscathed, having to get some dental work done and, had some face lacerations, but no broken bones, right? Which means if there's no broken bones, more than likely there's no torn ligaments, no ripped muscles, all of that type of stuff, man. He really got out of there. He got out of there clean. So now he's coming back. He says he's coming back in July, which is what he had said before, that he was looking at spring, early summer like that. But he's obviously itching to get back into the ring. Now, he said he does have one problem leading in to this next fight, is that he picked up a lot of weight. So he's got to work. He's back in the gym trying to get rid of the weight that he gained, right? So, he has that issue, but that's been an issue for Errol Spence Jr. in the last several of his fights. And it is right now, it's March. So we have April, May, June, and then July. So we have there's 4 full months before the time frame that he's saying that he's going to fight. So he should have the time to properly get the weight off, but yet still maintain his strength and all that for the fight. So looks like the fights are back on for Errol Spence Jr. Now, there's a couple things that might hold it back. Number one is the opponents. So first, let's talk about the opponents. And then after that, I want to talk about the issue that would keep him from, and pretty much everybody in boxing, from fighting the way that it looks like it might go. And then obviously, the big risk that people have fighting Errol Spence Jr. So the problems with the next fights that he have is, one is Manny Pacquiao. I'm not convinced 100% that Manny Pacquiao really wants to fight Errol Spence Jr. Now, I would not doubt that he does. Well, I guess that might be contradicting. I have reason to, I would not be surprised if he fought Errol Spence Jr. because Manny Pacquiao is a tough guy like that. He's very confident. He's a tough guy. Also, Errol Spence Jr. is coming off of an accident. So there's people in his team that might think, well, yeah, this is the time to get him because he might be vulnerable. Mentally, he might not be right. Physically, he might not be right. So, hey, man, if we're going to do it, this is the time to do it. But Manny Pacquiao has other options that are significantly less dangerous. Conversations about him fighting people in the MMA, conversations about him fighting Manny Pacquiao, right? A pay-per-view event with Manny Pacquiao, with Mikey Garcia. Although Mikey Garcia wouldn't be the fight that Errol Spence Jr. is, still Manny Pacquiao is going to get $20-25 million for that fight. So he's going to make a bunch of money. He's going to make a bunch of money regardless. I'm not, and there's everybody wants to fight Manny Pacquiao. So of all the guys at welterweight, Manny Pacquiao is probably the one guy that does not really need Errol Spence Jr. He doesn't need him as much as everybody else does. Then you have obviously the Terrence Crawford fight. Terrence Crawford, I just did a video up on the page that should be up. It's either before or after this. I don't make up my mind as to what time I'm going to post these videos until all my videos are actually done. But talked about it in another video that I recorded about Terrence Crawford, and Terrence Crawford himself saying, look, man, the Errol Spence Jr. fight it's not about somebody ducking one guy ducking the other. It's about the money and whether or not the money's it's about whether or not there's enough money out there for everybody to eat. And it's not the fighters holding up the fight. It's the money holding up the fight. Well, then that doesn't look like that's a foreseeable fight in the future, because Terrence Crawford really isn't doing anything to grow his profile and put the networks in a situation where they believe that they can make a lot of money off of the fight and that there would be enough money for everybody to eat. So that for Errol Spence Jr. is that was always supposed to take place after the Manny Pacquiao fight, but it just doesn't seem like Terrence Crawford really is going anywhere or doing anything to really try to push to have that fight pop off. And then the Canelo fight for Errol Spence Jr., that's a ways off too. So you're looking at something like a Danny Garcia. You might also be looking like a Abdukarov, right, who is the IBF mandatory. If for some reason Danny Garcia winds up fighting Manny Pacquiao, even though Manny Pacquiao has removed Danny Garcia from his name of people that he would be looking to fight, the ones that he's mentioned recently. So maybe there's the Abdukarov and Danny Garcia. Those are the two most realistic fights for Errol Spence Jr. in the July, August, in the July, August timeframe. Personally, I think it's probably going to be a little closer to September. I know he probably doesn't want to go. They probably don't want to go head up with, the usual Canelo Alvarez fights that take place in May and September. But hey, man, I don't know. 4 months off seems like a little bit off. Now, the other issue with him coming back is obviously the fact, like, for example, the whole NBA in the United States, the whole NBA season, National Basketball Association, just got held up for the whole year. Okay. And I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't shift to other major sports. I don't remember when the US Open is, unless they get this particular issue under, and I'm not saying it because YouTube is really sensitive about the topic. So, not gonna really use a word, but you guys know what I'm talking about. There could be a lot of other cancellations around that. So I have a suspicion that, that things might not really turn back. It's a lot of fights that are supposed to happen are going to get pushed back. Now, though, a lot of those fights aren't going to get pushed and affect Errol Spence, because the bigger the fight, the less they care about the smaller fights that take place around it. If Errol Spence Jr. set a fight, more than likely the other promoters and things would have to work around it, provided it wasn't a fight like a Manny Pacquiao. Even a Manny Pacquiao fight, they wouldn't want to do that. They wouldn't want to. Well, that's the PBC, but you get my point. But that's an issue around his return. But the thing that I want to talk about most important, that I've noticed the most, is that Errol Spence Jr.'s return can be really dangerous for the next guy that fights him, because I keep hearing people. It's almost as if people assume that Errol Spence Jr. is not the same fighter that he is now that he is before the car accident, and they're treating Errol Spence Jr. as if Errol Spence Jr. has had some really long layoff and he might have came back from something that happened to, like the Keith Thurman layoff or something. That's not the case. I mean, Sean Porter and Errol Spence Jr. fought each other. Sean Porter may not fight. Errol Spence might fight again before Sean Porter fights. He might fight. there's not a significant gap between the time of his last fight and this fight. So if he really and truly was not hurt and his mind is 100% right and he's really focused, and you go in there assuming, or even in the back of your mind, assuming that this guy isn't really going to be coming at me like he was before, plus he didn't knock out Sean Porter, plus he didn't knock out Mikey Garcia, dude, you can go in there really underestimating the guy and get the brakes beaten off of you. And it is not hard to get the brakes beaten off you by Errol Spence Jr. because that's exactly what that dude comes to do. He is not coming for some pretty fight. He's coming there to beat you up. And I don't see that mentality necessarily changing if there's nothing that happened bad with that car accident, because he's just going to feel blessed, and he might actually feel more like, look, I'm here for a reason. And hey, if I can get through a car crash, why am I going to be scared of you? You know, and bring that type of mentality into the equation, and anybody underestimating him could be in a lot of trouble. But anyway, that's my take on the situation. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.